Yankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So it's 10 o'clock, it must be time to start. So I think one thing you will find in my own habits and so on, that I try to be very punctual, both in the starting and the ending of the classes. And so if you please come, then come a little bit early to make sure that you're there. Or if you don't, it's okay, it's not a big thing. Welcome all of you. This is an exciting beginning for me as well, because for a couple of reasons. There's lots of new people. And thanks to Ramanandji, a lot of new people with background in yoga. And a lot of people who are Americans and Westerners. So it's a new beginning for me. We've never had this kind of a mix before, and I'm very pleased with that. And it's just going to be so challenging for me to make sure that the teaching has a good mixture of introductory material and advanced material. Yes. Volume needs to. Thank you for doing that. This one is on. I think you need to improve.
Continue talking.
Okay. So yeah, that's a good thought too. Is it better? Not yet? Hello, hello. Testing, still testing. Hello, hello. Hello. No, the power is on. I can see some volume, but not enough to, and I can speak a little bit louder, but is it the volume from there?
It's from this one, it's better.
Should be both. Both should be there. Let's see. I think that's the one that really requires some more adjustment. Any better?
Yes.
Huh? Okay, good.
Definitely.
Excellent. Thank you. So it's going to be an interesting challenge for me, as I was mentioning, a very pleasant challenge. It's not because we have a mixture of current students that have been studying with me for a while, and some new ones that I have not known, so that will be so nice. I think another one would be that you have people with Vedanta as a background and people with yoga as a background. And it'll be interesting for us to see how we meld the two of them into something that makes sense for both of you. As of last night, we have 73 people that are registered, and an equal number of people that are here, an equal number of people that are around the world. So that's another going to be interesting way to do that. So anyway, I'm really just looking forward for doing this, and we'll get started soon. Let me do this. I would like to get a video introduction to each one of you so that we have an idea of who you are. And so please do the following. Please come up one by one. I think this is, instead of taking the camera around, just come up one by one and simply state the following, just in half a minute or less. Your name, where are you from, and what you do. You can say, I'm such and such, and I'm a yoga teacher from Palo Alto. And for now, I think this is all people do. And then over time, I would like to get to know more of you and also give you a brief introduction about myself at the end. So let us start with that. And so if I can just have one end from here, and just please come up. Please, I apologize, you have to stand up and do this, but just from the standpoint of the video, that would be good to do.
Good morning, my name's Larry Lopez, and I'm from San Francisco, and I teach yoga from San Francisco.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Eric Anderson, I'm a designer from Mill Valley.
Thank you.
Ramanand Patel, yoga teacher from Dublin.
Okay, Barbara Wickman from San Francisco, mother, grandmother, and yoga teacher.
I'm Henry Heikkinen. I'm from Santa Cruz, and I teach yoga and do web development.
Thank you.
I'm Natalia Mendez-Abel. I'm yoga teacher from San Francisco.
Alexandra Teague. I live in Mill Valley and I teach yoga.
Anjali?
I'm Anjali Deshmukh from Cupertino. I've been Vijayji's student for a long time.
I'm Umit Chopra. I live in Cupertino, and I'm in corporate finance.
Vipul Chitalia, live here right here in San Jose, and I work in the high-tech business.
Thanks.
I am Shobha Pai. I'm grandmother of 4 and retired and have been coming to these classes since 2013.
I'm Ram Pai. I'm a grandpa. I've been coming here since 2013. And thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Vita. I'm coming from San Jose. I've been studying Indian philosophy in general and Vedanta in particular for a number of years. So I'm a student of Sanskrit very much. And I've been studying with Vijayji on and off for a number of years. Thank you.
There's some chairs here. You can still use. Another chair here.
I'm Suvarna Banjara from Milpitas, Guruji's student, enjoying his class thoroughly, and a grandma. Thank you.
I'm Carol Tonelli from San Francisco. I am a Spanish interpreter and recently certified conscious movement instructor.
I'm Derek. I'm a yogi and contractor from San Francisco.
I am Bhaskar Banjara and a student for some time now in attending this new class too. Thank you.
If I could suggest, please start moving in so that we have.
Hello, good morning everybody.
Yes.
This is Venu Madhav. I am coming from Union City. I work for Wells Fargo as a project manager.
Namaste, my name is Ravi Shankar. I'm an old student of TJG. I'm coming back after a few years.
Ashok Pandya. I'm from Hercules, north of Berkeley University. I'm happily retired.
Kim Marcellini from San Francisco, registered nurse.
I'm Manoj. I live in San Francisco and I work in real estate.
He didn't give his last name. He's my son. I respect his independence.
Paula Shames, San Jose, yoga and occupational therapy student.
I'm Surendra Ralan. I'm from Fremont, happily retired and enjoying wonderful time with my grandkids.
I can start over.
Namaste, Ashok Tekchandani. I'm in the high-tech world and grandfather 3 times from Fremont.
Monica Lorenes. I live and work in Santa Cruz. I'm a student of Ramananji and Vijay Kapoor.
Namaskar, my name is Bob Srinivas. I work in tech in Silicon Valley. I'm a returning student of Vijayji. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I'm James Chu. I'm from San Francisco and I teach yoga.
Namaste, I'm Lee Chi Chiu. I'm from Redwood City and I'm a student of Vijayji for a long time.
She's been one of my very loyal students for a long time. It's been very wonderful. You're still coming to the classes.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Vijayji.
I'm Stephanie Snyder. I'm a yoga teacher and student of Ramanan, and I'm from San Francisco.
My name is Mehul Majumdar. I am from Fremont, and I used to attend Vijayji's classes way back 7 years ago. I still sometimes watch your live classes, so
wonderful. Good
it's
to
a
see you,
privilege to
Mehul.
be here again.
Good.
Thank you.
Namaste, I'm Sanjay from San Jose.
Namaskar, my name is Renu Kaushik and we attend your classes through internet. Thank you for that facility. I teach handicapped kids in Cupertino School District. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Renu.
I'm Renu.
I have been attending this class since last year, and I enjoy the class very much, and I am a grandma. Thank you.
My name is Tanya Lewis. I'm currently in San Mateo. I'm a writer and also a yoga student and teacher.
My name is Richard Pfeiffer. I'm a yoga student, a contractor, and I live in Santa Cruz.
I'm Vedant Kadambi. I've been retired for several years and I'm the grandfather of 4 children. And I've been interested in Gita for a long time, and I'm also a member of HCI. So,
good. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm Sushma Bhatia from San Jose, and I've been attending Vijayji's classes for a good few years now.
I am Rajesh Matsrani from Fremont. I'm in the high-tech business in IT, and I've been attending Vijayji's class for a long time and wish to continue forever. Thank you.
Hi, Nicole Wilburn from Milpitas, and I'm a first grade teacher.
Hi, my name is Yuki Askew from Sunnyvale, and I practice psychotherapy with kids, families, and also I teach yoga.
Yeah, hi. My name is Greg Askew. I'm from Sunnyvale, and I have a software consulting company specializing in medical devices. And I've been going to classes with VJ for some years now. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Panna Chatalia, and this is my first time here, and I'm a seeker.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm Krishna. I've been attending Vijayji's, Guruji's classes for past 6-7 years now. I enjoy the classes, and actually my parents are also visiting me, so they're joining me in the back.
Wonderful.
My father in the back.
Wonderful.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Dr. B. Chandraya. I am retired degree PG principal in India. I have come to my son this Fremont. So last time I came to your lecture at that area. I don't know that area. So I came here for the first time, sir. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Welcome. That's it, everybody?
Good.
Excellent. So before I forget,
There's one more.
Hello, I'm Andrea Graciosi. I live in Dublin and I teach yoga, and I've been studying with BJG for a few years. And
good, thank you. Who has the forms and the pencils? Is it outside? Meera had it. Manoj, can you see if there is a basket?
Oh, yes.
Can you see a basket? Yeah. So I would like each one of you to just, because some of you have not registered, and so it is important that, because we keep contact through the email. So it's important for you to put your first name, last name, just the same thing here. So nothing very elaborate. But if you can just take the basket and circulate it so that everybody has a chance to write it down, that would be good. I'm sorry?
Oh,
I can-
asking Krishna.
I can
Yeah,
start.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had registered earlier. Do I still have to fill this, or you have the information?
I think I have the information, but you may want to just put down, where the only other information was how did you learn about this? So nothing very elaborate. You can do that. A quick introduction to myself. I was working in the high tech in the 60s and 70s when I first met Swami Chinmayananji in 1973. And it's very interesting. My first introduction to Vedanta was with the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I still remember June of 1973 in the old Lone Mountain College. There was a church, and I just went to these talks by Swami Chinmayananji, and he was talking on the 7th chapter. It's very precious to me. It just so happens. And that's how I got started. Then I got deeper into it, and within a couple of years decided to seek the knowledge full time. So I joined Swami Dayanandji in an ashram in Piercy for 2.5 years, moved my entire family there, gave up my job, and got a fairly intense introduction to the what's called Prasthanatraya, which means 10 Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, a lot of Prakarana Granthas and so on, Sanskrit also. And then after coming back, I resumed my job with HP for another 18 years, but started teaching. And when I retired in the year 2000, excuse me, then my primary focus became the teaching, and the work became secondary. So this is what I've been doing, and very happy to revise the knowledge, the communication of the knowledge to especially new people, and looking forward to it very much. What I'd like to do is give you a general structure of our course, which you pretty much know by now, but I just wanted to make sure that it is done. And do that in 3 stages. So the first one, which will just take 1 class or so, which will be to give you an introduction of what do we mean by Hinduism? What are the core tenets of it? What are the principles about Hinduism? And another thing I would like to see is that the people that have been studying with me for a while should view this opportunity to be able to articulate the principles of Hinduism to someone. You can either just grab hold of someone and say, I'd like to tell you more about what I'm doing. Or you can just do it yourself or write an essay. But you should be a good ambassador of what Hinduism really means to yourself and to others. So we are going to take a crack at that in the next day or so, next class or so, starting very shortly. So this is number 1. You may have seen a recently prepared set of points that I came up with called the core tenets of Hinduism. How many of you have not had a chance to look at it? Will you please raise your hand? A fair amount. Okay. So what I would ask you to do is, first of all, please be familiar with our web page. arshavidyacenter.org, which I sent most of you information on. And when you register tonight, if there are some new people, then I will send you the links to the website. On that website, there is a link to this class. And on that page referring to this class, which is Gita chapter number 7, you will see a number of texts, prayers, and hopefully with some audio and video that we will populate it with to help you understand the content of this course. So the first one that you should see, which I would like you to review, is a document called The Core Tenets of Hinduism. So I would like you to review that before the next class. And I will talk about it even today, but I think you should have an idea of what that means. It's written down, it's just a first pass, so it's not highly sophisticated. I just put down some of the basic ideas on a piece of paper. So, but review it for now. There are also some articles from my Guru Swami Dayanandji, Swamini Swatma Vidyananda, and a few others that you are you can optionally look at, but at least this particular document you should review. So this forms the first segment of this class, which is an introduction to what we mean Hinduism. A short, succinct, but at least a put together document that you should review. This is number one. Then, over the next three or four classes maybe, we will discuss about the Bhagavad Gita's role in Hinduism. Because, as you know very well, unlike some of the other religions, we don't just have a single book that you can go to, like a Bible, or the Quran, or the Granth Sahib of the Sikhs, and say everything is in there. It is much more than that. We have a very complex, elaborate, complete set of texts that give you a rather sophisticated view of what life is all about, what the spiritual principles are. Nevertheless, the one book that comes closest to the Bible or Quran or the Granth Sahib is the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita really was written so that it comprises of the essence of Hinduism. And it will be supplemented with a lot of other books. It is not the only book that there is, but it represents the principles of Hinduism quite well. So the second part of our course will be to review the Bhagavad Gita in general, and in particular the first 6 chapters that we have already gone through for the last 2-3 years. Now, having said that, for those of you that are joining this class for the first time, don't feel that you've missed out a lot and that you are now coming into the middle. There is a reason for I'm saying that. The reason is that many of the principles of Hinduism are reinterpreted and revised with each chapter. So each chapter is a complete review of the entire Bhagavad Gita. And if it is not, then I will supplement it over the next 3 or 4 lectures, 3 or 4 classes, on what the overall sense of the Bhagavad Gita is. So please don't feel that you have, I think Swami Dayanandji, my teacher, used to say that. He said, he was saying this, he says, I don't feel that if you miss a class, you have a disadvantage. He says, the way I feel is that those that are here have a more of an advantage than others. So don't feel that you have a disadvantage of not knowing the Gita. We'll make sure that you get the fundamentals of that. But those of you that have studied will have a little bit more advantage because you've already gone through quite a bit of it. So anyway, the second part of the course will be an overall review of Bhagavad Gita, particularly a review of the first part that we have already been doing. And incidentally, what I would say is that if you have the time and the interest, you could in fact go back and review the earlier parts that have been videotaped and audio taped. They're all there on this web page. So it's completely up to you if you want to do that. What I would say is that the 6th chapter that we just concluded is particularly apt from the standpoint of the yoga students. Because this is a topic that we are going to get into in great detail, which is the relationship of yoga and Vedanta. The limitations of yoga from the standpoint of Vedanta. This we're going to discuss quite a bit. And this was discussed at some length in the 6th chapter. And I will revise it even as part of this teaching, but if you are interested in getting more detail, you could in fact go through the 6th chapter recordings to enhance your understanding of that. So I just wanted to mention that to you. Anyway, so going back to the structure of the course, first one was the core principles of Hinduism. Second was the role of Vedanta and the role of Bhagavad Gita in Vedanta, how it relates to Hinduism. That was number 2. Then we are going to spend some time in greatly understanding the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which has 30 verses, and we will not go through verse by verse, but I will do a conceptual review of the 7th chapter, hopefully going into some of the verses as well. And when we do that, one of the things I would like everyone to do is to learn to chant the Sanskrit of the 7th chapter. So I'll give you you don't have to have a text. You can just do a PDF download of the text which is there on the web page. And also I'll give you an audio so that you have a practice. And for the first 7-8 minutes of each class, we will chant 6 verses out of the 30. So 6 verses each class, so that by the end of the class you will be able to chant with accuracy the Sanskrit verses of the 7th chapter. Anyway, so we will, the third part of the course will be that we are going to spend a lot of time on discussing the depth of the 7th chapter. Okay? Then that brings me up to the overall objective of the course. And that is that I would like you to, first of all, have a notebook and pen. And as we go through the course, write down some of the important points that I will be pointing out. And then on the last day of the course, we will have a closed book quiz of the earlier 15 lectures. So no books, please, no consulting. You should just be from your memory. Okay, and for those of you that are not here, that are online, please do the same thing. Keep it to an hour and a half. It'll be a one and a half hour quiz. And just write down the answers to that and just send it to me online. And then I will give you an evaluation based on that, how well you have understood. It is not a comparative evaluation. It's not as though it's an ABC or anything. But give me an idea and give you an idea of how well you have understood all of this. And a couple of days ago, we were having some people over for dinner, and one of my friends, who is quite an accomplished person, Bill Coleman, he was just recently the CEO of Veritas. And so he was asking me, what are you up to? So I was saying, I'm just starting a new class and so on and so forth. So he said, so are you going to give them a certificate? So I said, no, we never do that. He says, do you know something? You should. So he's also a professor at Stanford. And he does a lot of teaching of CEOs that come for short courses. He says, I highly recommend that as a result of passing the quiz, you should give everyone a short certificate. And I said, that's something I've never thought of, but it might be a good idea. So we're going to have Kumud design me a Arsha Vidya Center certificate, personally signed by me, which will say this person has now accomplished the core of Hinduism, its survey of Bhagavad Gita, and an in-depth study of the 7th chapter. So I think that's a good idea. I'm going to do that. Okay. For this last section and the next one that I'm going to start, I would like to make sure that you can ask questions and I can answer it. After that, the tradition of the teaching is that you do not interrupt the teacher until the end of the class, at which time we have 20 minutes of question answers. This is how the tradition is. But for up to this point, and also the core tenets of Hinduism, which I'm going to do now, this is a different format. Please raise your hand, and if you have any questions that you don't understand or something, then I'll be willing to discuss it. So with that, let's see how much time we have. So it's 10:37. So we have about 45 minutes more to go. Okay. Any questions so far? Good. Okay. All right. So now let us go into the core tenets of Hinduism, which we might finish today, and certainly we will do it by next class. Okay. So the table of contents of this paper that I have written is, if you may have seen this, are as follows. Who is a Hindu? When you say, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, what does it really mean? Who is that? The second one is, what is our scriptural authority? Where does the knowledge come from? Who is the authority that tells us what Hinduism is? Number two. Some variations of Hindu thought will also be given. So that's number three. Then we have three core aspects of Hinduism, which is the Hindu view of God, the Hindu view of the world, and the Hindu view of yourself as an individual. Really speaking, if you look at our lives, this is what encompasses our life, which is, what is this world all about? How do I relate to it? Am I dependent on it? What are my contributions? What does it expect out of it? How do I feel in balance with the world. This is number one. So this is a query about the creation. Crazy creation, good and bad, unpredictability, all kinds of stuff going on. But a creation, some kind of a creation. What is that creation? Number one. The second we have is, who created it? And why? Who is the author of this creation? Number two. And number three, perhaps the most important one, is, who am I? What is my future? What am I supposed to do as an individual? How do I relate to the creation? How do I relate to the Creator? So these are the three queries that we should keep in mind. And we have a very brief, this is a huge subject obviously, can't just bring it down to something, but at least we articulated it. So this is what it is. And then the last one, which I borrowed from a friend of mine, which is often asked questions about Hinduism and some of the answers for it. So we will also have that as part of this core principle. Okay? So with that, let us start. So first one is, who is a Hindu? So the word Hinduism is really a foreign word, because the core of Hinduism is Vedas. It's called Vedic teaching. So this is what is called, we are the people who say they are Hindus are what is called Vaidikas. Vaidikas means pertaining to Vedas. So the word Hindu is actually a foreign word. It was invented by Persians who saw these Vaidikas living on the river of Indus River, and I guess it was called Indu or Hindu, Sindhu. So they called it Sindhu, and so that word has stuck. But really speaking, the core of Hindu thought is Vedic. Everything about Vedas. This is number one. Okay, now, one important thing. So, I told you that please, I'm just going to tell you some important things that you should be very familiar with. This will come in the quiz, by the way. Or this may come in the quiz, because whether this is one of those is the following. This is an important thing to see as we see it. The Vedas are never generated, never created. They are always there in the creation. Always there. Either in a manifested form or non-manifested form. And what do we mean by that? The best way to look at that, one of our Acharya, our teachers had pointed this out. Swami Viditatmananda has pointed it out, I think 20 years ago. I remember his words so well. He said, look upon as the signals, audio and video signals present all over. So right at this moment, I don't know how many FM stations there are in this area, and how many AM stations, and how many video channels that are there. It's all there, present, but unmanifested. You can't touch it. You can't say, I'm touching FM station number 5. And yet, if you develop an instrument which is capable of catching the waves, you can actually display it. it becomes manifest. So then you have a TV that you can go to channel 5. So the Vedas are exactly like that. So now I'm going to go a little further. Okay? So there are 2 words used in Vedanta, which I will write down. I'm not using the TV very much. I actually will use the TV for writing down some words. But today I'm just going to use a couple of them, so I'm not going to go through that. There are 2 words we use to display this phenomena very well, to understand this phenomena well. What phenomena? That the Vedic thoughts are always present in the entire cosmos. So what that means is it is not created by a human being. Okay? It's always there. The 2 words we use to delineate that in Sanskrit are called Swabhava and Swarupa. Swabhava and Swarupa. Swabhava means a natural personality. This is the way it is. You know, like you can say, for example, there is, a person, supposing you know a person, and then you say, wow, that was a very kindly act that she did. She went out of her way to help someone. And someone else will say, that's her nature. That's her nature. She may help someone or she may not help someone, but she is very helpful. So the helpfulness of a person is called Swabhava. The nature of a person is called Swabhava. That means that, you see the distinction? It is not necessary for you to know that the person actually helps someone. Because if the opportunity is not there, then the person may not help. But at least the nature of the person is helpfulness. This is called Swabhava. Swarupa is something different. And this I will discuss in more detail later on. But the distinction between a Swarupa and Swabhava is a person and the personality. A person is called Swarupa and the personality is called Swabhava. And the reason I'm going through this explanation is to sketch out the nature of Vedas. The Vedas are the personality of God, of Ishvara. This is the way Ishvara is. This is a very important thing to keep in mind, because when we examine the nature of the world and we try to analyze it and try to pick it apart, to say, is it good, is it bad, and so on. And also look into the creation. When did it start? Why was it created? This, all these questions are going to come up. We're going to discuss all of that. Please remember, we'll go back to this is without an explanation at this point. Just take my word for it. This is the way the world is. This is the way the God is. Misunderstood, it creates problems. Understood, it solves all problems. But this is the way it is. There is, in fact, the Vedic thinking present all over, at all times. Then what happens is, just like you have a radio or a television that can capture the unmanifest waves in the ocean or in the ether, you have human beings that were also created by Ishvara, that have the ability to understand the truth of the Vedas. They are so fine-tuned that they can now display the things that are already present but not display. These are called rishis. This is what is called rishis. So in the beginning of a kalpa, beginning of a time, these rishis are able to express the thoughts of the Vedas. And this forms the bulk of the teaching. So the teaching is expressed by the rishis, but never created by the rishis. In fact, they are not created by anyone. That is the very svabhava of Ishvara. It is always, they are always there. So this is something that we keep that in mind as things that we need to really clarify and understand. So anyway, the scriptural authority of the Hindus, which is the next topic, is the word of the Veda. The word Vedas means knowledge, by the way. It comes from the dhatu vid. Vid means to know. So Vedas means the body of knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of who we are, what is going on, what is life all about, what is life after life, what is life after death. Not only that, but even in this life, to how to understand things. All of that, the deeper aspects of the knowledge, is the subject of the Vedas. In such a situation, one of the rishis that is highly respected in this age is Vyasa. Is a rishi called Vyasa. And by the way, one way to look at this is that this age means this kalpa, which we don't know how long it is. It's not 2,000, 3,000. It's hundreds of thousands of years old. So this just comes up over and over again. It is very much like a new day starting after a night. A new day means new personality, new, but really it is nothing but an old personality which is now woken up. And so the Rishi Vyasa is the waking up of a Rishi in this age. And that Rishi has decided to simplify the explanation of the Vedas into 4 different Vedas. Those are Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda. So this is an expression of the Vedas that was already in the air. It was already present, never created, uncreated, but expressed in a brand new situation for our present self. And by the way, another thing to know is the expression is in the only language which was not created by human beings, which is Sanskritam. Sanskrit is the language of Ishvara. And it is the language in which, for lots of very good reasons, its precision, because of its subtlety, the ability to distinguish small things from others, it's very, very beautiful language. And the entire teaching is based in Sanskrit. And so Sanskrit it can be modified by human beings, but it is not created by human beings. It is there just like the Vedas. The expression is also in the case of Sanskrit also. So that was done by sage Vyasa. So therefore, to summarize, the scriptural authority of the Hindus comes from the explanation of the Vedic scriptures by Vyasa. And lots, not only Vyasa, but there's a number of people that have elaborated on it, explained it, clarified it, commented on it, and so on. So we have a huge set of literature. It's not just one book. So the Bhagavad Gita is only one book, but it's an amazing literature. And the interesting thing about the literature is that it's all consistent. I tell you, in my own life, I've been studying Vedanta now for about, I don't forget, 73 to whatever it is, 37, 40 years. What is most pleasant to me is to come across a new book that I have never studied before, a new text that someone mentioned it to me or something, and to find that the ideas in this book are so consistent with what I have studied elsewhere. It's not as though these two books are saying different things and I have to resolve their differences. No. They may give you different answers, different aspects of it. All the Upanishads, for example, they have a slightly different aspect of looking at it. Like the Upanishad called Kena Upanishad. So the Kena Upanishad means by whom. Kena means by whom. In Upanishad, by whom. And the reason it is titled like that is the first verse of Kena Upanishad, which says, who impels my mind? My mind is going into different aspects, my different ideas. Who is responsible for it? Where does it come from? What is the source of my ideas? This is just a question. So this Upanishad just gives you that aspect. Another one, for example, talks about the various stages of human being. And the most important 3 stages of the human being are all repeated in 24 hours. 24 hours is a very important segment. There are 3 segments of the 24 hours. And every person goes through those 3 ones. Those are waking stage, dream stage, and sleep stage. And we keep on going back and forth between them. So what is the reality, what is the reason behind this? There is an Upanishad that we are actually currently studying, which is Mandukya Upanishad. And so some of our experienced students have been studying that. That is from 8 to 9:30 of every Saturday. We just finished that class. So that's another Upanishad that talks about that aspect of it. So there are different Upanishads that look into different aspects, but they're all very consistent. The vision, the end result is the same, which is an understanding of who we are, what is my relationship to the world, and who is the creator, and what is my relationship to the creator. This forms the essence of Vedas. So that forms the Vedic authority, that forms the scriptural authority of the Vedas. I also mentioned in this paper that I wrote that there are actually 6 levels of literature. 6 levels of literature that confirm the authenticity of this vision. 6 levels. So one is called Shruti. Shruti means what is heard by the rishis. Because the rishis, because of their past karmas, had fine-tuned their mind to such a degree that they are able to catch the subtle waves of the Vedic thought. So all this Vyasa and everybody that we talked about, in essence, the very basic Vedic thought is given in the Shruti. All the 4 different Upanishads and so on. So this is one level of text literature called Shruti. Okay? And all of that is not man-made. This is all done by Ishvara, which is the very swabhava of the Ishvara, as I mentioned before. So this is the first level. Then the second level of literature is called Smriti. So Smriti, by the words, the dhatu itself means recollection. Shruti is the collection and Smriti is the recollection. Bhagavad Gita is the most famous Smriti. There are lots of Smritis. Manu Smriti also is there, but Bhagavad Gita is a Smriti. And Bhagavad Gita is man-made. It is what is called Paurushaya. So Paurushaya means that it is Purushajanya. It is done by human beings. And so, and Bhagavad Gita is a very, very interesting book because it is in first person. It is written from the view of Krishna, who is an avatara, as we will go into more detail later on. So it's a very unique book, but it accurately represents Shruti. So this is the Smriti. Now, as we go down the list of these texts, as we will see, it becomes easier to grasp. So if you are going into something where you are having difficulty in grasping, go to the last one first and then move up to the Shruti. So these levels, these 6 levels, are from ease of understanding. So the second level is Smriti. Then the third level is what is called Puranas. And there are 18 of them. And what is interesting about Puranas is that they are done in a story form. Again, as a way for understanding. Like, sometimes when we teach children, we cannot just give them conceptual ideas, but much better if you tell them a story. Animal stories and stories of gods, Krishna and so on. Then they can grasp it. So the Puranas are the same consistent ideas. The ideas are not any different. Vision is the same, but the expression is easier, called Puranas. And the most famous, there are 18 Puranas. The most famous of them is Bhagavatam. Bhagavata Purana. Beautiful stories and very, very, very insightful. Not just silly stories, but very insightful, but in the form of a story. The form of a story. So I'll give you one example of that. So there's a story about an elephant. And so the elephant is the most powerful animals in the world. And he's very proud of it. He knows that I'm very powerful. So this is an example of a human being. because as we grow up, we develop a certain ego about ourselves. I know a lot. I got enough money. I think I can do, I don't know about the rest of the world, but I'm doing okay. So the elephant epitomizes such a thing. So the story goes in the Bhagavatam, this elephant was going with his family and just having fun. And he decided to get into a pond of water because it was a hot day. And the elephants usually do. They go to a pond of water, they suck up a lot of water, and they put it on their own bodies to bathe themselves and feel cool. So this guy was doing that. Everybody else was also, his family was also doing it. Suddenly, a crocodile got hold of his foot. This was a bit surprise to him. He had never seen this before. And so he tried to get his foot away. He says, I'm so strong I can do that. The crocodile, his teeth had gone into the legs of this, and he would not let go. And he was pulling him down into the water, slipping into the water. And he was saying, I'm in trouble. Then, for the first time in his life, as the story goes, he called for Vishnu. He says, Vishnu, please save me. I don't know what is happening to me. I don't know what I can do. You alone can save me. And so then there's a story. Then Vishnu comes and takes him and so on. This is a story to depict that as human beings, our ego is very dangerous. Because we feel that I think I can solve many of the problems in life. It's okay, I'm doing okay. How can we think that? All it takes is a small stroke, small accident, small heart attack. We're gone. And so, unless we ask for some help, and there is help available, but we don't think about it. And so this is just a story. This is how Bhagavatam stories go. Anyway, so that's another level. So we've gone through Shruti, Smriti, and Purana. Then comes the fourth level of literature called Itihasa. So Itihasa means history. And it is made up of Itihasa, means this is how it was. And in this one, there are two famous Itihasas. As you know, Ramayana, which is a story of Rama, and the story of Krishna. These are the two famous itihasas. So this is a very interesting topic, and I'll give you a small introduction to it and then go on, perhaps do some other things. I have a lot to cover. The question is, did it really happen or not? Were Rama and Krishna real characters, or are they imaginary? This is the question. So our gurus have said, Swami Dayanand spent a lot of time discussing this. He said, they formed the definition of what is called classics. There's an English word called classic. Like, for example, the Shakespearean plays are called classics. And this famous book called Ivanhoe, which you may have heard about, I remember reading that when I was young. Ivanhoe. Picture also was there. These are called classics. What is a classic? A classic is defined as a book. In fact, by the same token, the music is also called classical music. And anyway, I'll comment on that in a minute. Let's go back to the classic of the text. The classic is defined as a book which accurately discusses the issues of the day, and it doesn't matter whether it happened or not. Like, for example, Swami Dayananji used to talk about Ivanhoe. So Ivanhoe was, from what I understand, what I remember, is the struggle between Judaism and Christianity. And so this was where the kings in England were Christians. And this has been going on for a long time. They were discriminating against Judaism. So there was some interplay between these two that accurately describes the way things were in UK at that time. I don't remember how many, 700-800 years ago or some 500 years ago. But it doesn't mean that the characters in it are accurate. Doesn't matter. What matters is that the conceptual ideas of them were accurate. If you take that into account, then the stories about Rama and Krishna were classics. Whether they happened or not doesn't matter, but they might as well have happened. Why? Because Judaism and Christianity and their struggles and their conflicts and so on were real at that time, and they still are, actually, for that matter. And so, really speaking, Itihasa draws parallel to the concepts about truth. Like, for example, in the case of Ramayana, as you know very well, lots of examples of, one of the lessons of Ramayana is that do not expect your life to be a plain, clean sailing. Even Rama, who was an avatar of Ishvara, was going through a lot of problems. His wife was confiscated. He had to give up his kingdom. A lot of issues. How did he address it? In the same way, you and I also have a lot of problems. What should our attitude be? This is the message that we have to learn. Doesn't matter whether it happened or not, but the issues are real. Problems are real. And the overcoming of the problems is also real. How is it done? Same thing with Krishna. So many problems in his life. And yet, the message that overcame all of them is the one that we need to focus on that. Anyway, so going back to it, the fourth level of literature is called Itihasa. The fifth level is called the Sutra literature. So the Sutra literature, out of which the most famous one for Vedanta is called Brahma Sutra, or what are called aphorisms, where it gives you the crux of the thinking. in a very non-emotional, factual way. And the best way to describe the word sutra is we studied this in great length, exactly what is the definition of a sutra. So the sutra, I'll give you a quick example of that, is a very precise, cannot be segmented anymore. This is the last one. In fact, the best way to look upon that is those of you that are in the computer science business, you will see that you have these high-level languages. I can't even remember them anymore because in our days they used to be Fortran and Algol, and nowadays it's BASIC. And I saw the other day that we have my wife's niece's son, 7-year-old Devin, and Milan. They are doing coding. So these are, the coding languages are very high-level languages. But then the coding has to be done at a very machine language where the ones and zeros are given. Because the machine doesn't understand these high-level languages. Sutra is a machine-level language. And by the way, another thing which sutras are is kind of like a Supreme Court. A very beautiful way that Swami Dayanandji had explained this. And this is the Supreme Court of the universe. It is not the Supreme Court of US, which could be biased. So you put your Republicans on it, then they are the Roe versus Wade. I don't know what the decision is going to be. So these are all politicized Supreme Courts. Nevertheless, the tenor of the Supreme Court is that they view issues that come up in the most non-partisan way. They're supposed to. Sutras are like the Supreme Court of the universe. I'll give you an example. This is an interesting thing. There is a term called antaryami. Antaryami. Antaryami means the one who regulates your life from within. Antar means from within. Yami means, yamayati means one who regulates. One who regulates your life internally. So now, all these sutras, by the way, are given in the form of legal briefs that take the opposite viewpoint. This is what a sutra does. Okay? So, for example, take the example of antaryami. In antaryami, there are two legal briefs that are in the opposite direction. One legal brief is the following. So you and I are individuals. Okay, we look similar, but we have our own unique lives. What my goals are, what my history is different from yours. Who regulates it? Who is this person who decides, I'm going to do this today. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for a master's degree. No, I'm going to do this. Who is that person? This is what is called an antaryami. There are two legal briefs. One says it is the individual. The other one says no, it is God. It is not the individual. It is the God. So both the viewpoints are given to Brahma Sutrakara. And this, by the way, the author, so Sutra also is made by human beings, and Vyasa is the author of Brahma Sutra also. He's the so-called revealer of the Vedas, but he's also the author of. That's why he's so highly regarded in Hinduism. So he presents it as follows. One side is that the Antaryami is the person responsible for you and I is you. No one else is responsible. Everybody can help, but you alone have to determine. The other view is no. What you think to be as an individual is really God. So now the Supreme Court has to make a judgment based on these two legal beliefs. By the way, do you know what the answer is for this Antaryami? Very surprising. It is God, not the individual. I don't accept that, but this is what we have to see. This is what we have to see. There is a thing called Ishvara who, working through me, is making me do things. And in fact, as part of the arguments for determining it is God, not the individual, is the following. If you were the person who is the Antaryami, you will never do anything which is inimical to yourself. Never. You have full control, but you don't. All of a sudden you get angry. You don't want to get angry. You ask somebody, do you get angry? He says, no, I don't get angry. I don't never get angry. Swami Viditatmananda was talking about this. He said, you know, there was one of the, I don't know if it's a real story or what, but one of the students came up to him and he says, Swamiji, I have been studying Vedanta for a long time and now I have conquered my anger. I never get angry. Swamiji said, just to needle him, I said, you know, sometimes what happens is that anger is sort of there, but, you know, it doesn't come up, but it's there, kind of like a fire inside. He says, no, Swamiji, I am telling you, I have really conquered anger. So Swamiji says, really? It's wonderful. But you know, the fact of the matter is that it's very difficult to say that you've conquered. He says, Swamiji, I'm telling you. You know, why don't you listen to me? When I'm telling you something, this is what it is. So here's the situation. The Antaryami, is that a person or a God? So actually the person creates an impediment in God's work. If it was purely God, Ishvara working through me, I would be very happy. But I'm not. I create some problems for myself. So clearly I'm not in control of my mind. This is one of the arguments that is given. So there is a section which is called Antaryami section in the sutra that examines that concept and brings in both the legal briefs and gives the final answer. So this is called the sutra literature, which is number 5. Finally, we have the 6th one, which is Prakarana Grantha. So Prakarana Grantha means topical books. They are written by human beings to explain different aspects of the literature, and they are continuing on. Again, very consistent with various aspects of Vedanta. So these are the 6 forms of literature. Then there are there are supporting literature. So, for example, yoga, Ayurveda, and music, and grammar, and all those that support the Vedic thinking. So those are called Upavedas, etc. They're all there. 5 more minutes. Then there is a section here which talks about the variations of the Hindu beliefs. So there are 6 schools of thought that believe in the Vedas, and those are called Astikas. Astikas, there are 6 of them: Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa, Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, and Vaisheshikas. So I won't have time right now, but these are just these are the 6 schools of thought. With slightly different view of it. These are called Astikas. And then you have Nastikas that don't hold the Vedas as the authority. Don't hold it. So the most famous out of them is Buddhism. Buddhism doesn't believe in the authority of the Vedas. Jains do not believe in the authority of the Vedas. And of course all the other religions, Christianity, Islam, etc., etc., they don't think about the Vedas as one thing. So those are called Nastikas. But even within those that do hold the authority of the Vedas, there are differences in the way they look at things. So the Sankhya is different, Uttara Yoga is different, Nyaya is different, Vaisheshikas are different. And we study all that. We see where there are differences and where they are not, where they are misinterpreting. So Swami Dayanand used to say that we know sometimes more about their religions than they know themselves. And it is not to put them down, it is to clarify our own understanding. That if you were thinking about Sankhya, what would be a problem and why doesn't it solve your life? This is the study of the Vedikas, of the Astikas. You know what? I think this is all that I would have. So I think what I would do is cover the rest of the tenets in the next class, which is the Hindu view of God and so on. And I think I'll be able to finish it. So in 1.5, 2 classes. And then I think we can even begin the study of the Bhagavad Gita probably in the next class itself. So with that, I didn't leave you much time for any questions, but why don't we just say an ending prayer and then open up for any questions that you have. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. These prayers, by the way, will be there in audio form also. So please learn them, and we should do that together from next time on, all of us. Any questions or observations? Or yeah.
Is there a relationship of the Vedas to Brahman?
Yes, of course. The Brahman is the very subject of Vedas.
But you said that the Vedas are the Svabhava of Ishvara?
And so Brahman is the Swarupa. Brahman is the Swarupa of Ishvara, and
Swarupa
Nirguna.
The Vedas are the Svabhava
Vedas are the Swabhava
of Brahman
of Brahman.
and Ishvara.
Both of them, yes, it's one and the same.
When you say Ramayana and Krishna, Rama and Krishna is same as Mahabharata?
Mahabharata, yes, yes.
Krishna, it appears, has been mentioned in several Upanishads, and it even goes on to say the son of Devaki, the pupil of, I forget the name of the rishi, and so on and so forth in detail. And very many people think that he was a human being who existed because it's stated in some other thing completely unrelated to the Bharatam.
Yeah,
and
no, that's
also
true.
probably more
Yeah.
ancient because that is in an Upanishad, which was
Yeah,
definitely
I
more
think,
ancient than all these books.
All those are possibilities, and that's academic. We don't have to really go into the when was it done or not. I think the key thing is that that Krishna existed as though he was there. This is the important thing.
That's given. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm questioning. It's saying it appears from the reference to Krishna in some ancient book, which book meaning came from Apaurushaya, implies very strongly that there was a character by the name Krishna.
Yeah, that's very possible.
Because otherwise, I mean, from where would it arise? From our own logic. The logic says that that is Apaurushaya. It did not come from human beings. And it mentions Krishna in there is no question as to who is mentioned. Devaki's son, the pupil of somebody, I forget the name.
So the revelation, the only thing that might put some doubt in that is that it's not as though the Upanishads were the first ones to be manifested and that the Itihasa came later. Not necessarily, because, I'll tell you why. Because the Upanishads can be given a name by anyone where it was revealed to a human being. Like, I'll give you one example. If you look at Raman Maharshi, okay, Raman Maharshi did not study the Upanishads, and yet his books can be called an Upanishad because the ideas just came to him from his previous birth. And so what I'm saying is, here's what I'm saying. I'm not sure of this, but I'm just giving you a viewpoint. It's very possible that some Upanishads that talk about Krishna came later, not in the very beginning. That's possible.
No.
But it doesn't really matter. I mean, personally, if you ask me, my own personal view is that I believe that Krishna and Rama were real people. That's my view. But again, I think the view of Swami Dayanandji was I respect very much, where he says that it doesn't matter whether that person was there, but a person who is an avatara, who has the capability of changing things, whose ability, the wisdom of abjugating between Kauravas and Pandavas and so on, that person is the wisdom of Krishna. Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing.
No, but I understand your viewpoint.
I'm simply saying it appears
Yeah, I agree.
that he was a real person.
Any other questions or? All right, very good. We will hopefully see you next week. Not sure. God willing.